This is the story of David and Goliath. It comes from God's true word, the Bible, from 1 Samuel chapter 17. The Israelites find themselves in the time of King Saul's rule. The Philistines, some of the enemies to the Israelites, had gathered their armies together to battle against Israel. Saul, the king of Israel, countered by gathering his troops on the opposite hill, with a giant valley between them. Then Goliath, a Philistine champion, came forward to face the forces of Israel. The Bible says that he was a giant. He was over 9 feet tall. In his complete and heavy bronze armor, Goliath shouted to the Israelites, "Why are you all coming out to fight? I am the Philistine champion, but you are only servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. Whoever wins will be the master of the loser's army. I challenge the armies of Israel today." When King Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were very afraid and they lost their courage. Every morning and evening for 40 days, the giant Goliath took his stand and made his challenge. About this time, David, a son of Jesse's, arrived at the Israelites' camp. David was the youngest and smallest of all 7 of Jesse's sons. David's brothers were all in the service of the army of King Saul. David was too young and too small, so his job was to tend to the sheep in the field. One day, Jesse sent David to the army with food and instructions to bring back a report on his brothers. As David talked with them, Goliath stepped out and issued his usual challenge to the army of Israel. "Why are you all coming out to fight? I am the Philistine champion, but you are only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down and fight me. Whoever wins will be the master of the loser's army. I challenge the armies of Israel today." When the men heard him, they were scared. "Have you seen this giant?" they asked. "He comes out every day to defy Israel. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who defeats him." David questioned those around him. "What will a man get for defeating this Philistine and ending his attacks on Israel? Who is this ungodly Philistine anyway, that he is allowed to go against the army of the living God?" David's words got back to King Saul, who sent for David. "Don't worry about this Philistine," David told the king. "I'll go fight him." King Saul replied, "There's no way that you can fight against this Philistine. You're only a young man, and he's been a warrior since his youth." But David persisted. "I, your servant, have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. There have been times when a lion or a bear would try to steal a lamb from the flock. I would go after it and rescue the lamb from its mouth. And when it came after me, I caught it by the jaw and I killed it. Just as I have done this to a lion and a bear, I'll do it to this ungodly Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." So King Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." He gave David his own coat of armor, but David was not used to it and took it off. Instead, he picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream and put them into his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with the shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the field to fight the giant Philistine. Goliath marched out in the field with his shield-bearer in front of him. When he saw how young David was, he said, "Am I a dog that you've come to me with sticks? Come over here and I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals." But bravely, David looked straight at Goliath and said this, "You come to me with the sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have gone against. Today the Lord will conquer you, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel, and everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with the sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us." As Goliath moved closer to attack, David ran towards him. Then David reached into his bag and pulled out a stone, hurled it with his sling, and hit Goliath in the forehead. The stone sank in, and the giant fell face down on the ground. When the Philistines saw that their champion Goliath was dead, they turned and ran away. Then the men of Israel gave a great shout of triumph and rushed after the Philistines. God's favor was with Israel. He fought the battle for his people, and he gave the victory. David's trust in God is what helped him slay the giant.